In today's stories, I want to share something that still makes me shake my head every time I think about it. It all started on a Monday morning, one of those days where you wake up feeling optimistic, ready to tackle your work, fueled by coffee and a little too much enthusiasm. I had just settled into my home office, laptop perched on a stack of books, headphones on, a steaming cup of coffee beside me, and my first Zoom call was about to begin. I'm naturally talkative, especially when brainstorming ideas, but that day, I had no idea that my habit of expressing myself freely would spark a chain of events so absurd that it still feels unreal. The building I live in isn't huge, maybe 30 apartments over 3 floors, but it has one neighbor who everyone unofficially dubs the Vigilant One. Let's just call her Karen. Karen has this remarkable ability to make everything about her business. Crooked parking, she notices. A dog barking twice, outrageous. Laundry hung improperly, crime. I had tolerated her quirks for months, dismissing them as eccentricities, until that fateful Monday when I unknowingly became her target. I was mid-Zoom call with my team, discussing strategies, deadlines, and campaign ideas. I gestured a lot, leaned forward, laughed at jokes, and, true to my nature, spoke with energy. My dog barked once or twice, which I quickly muted, but my voice carried through the thin walls of my apartment. From her balcony directly opposite mine, Karen had the perfect vantage point, and from her perspective, I must have looked suspicious. According to the gossip that spread through the building, she had decided my animated Zoom calls were evidence of something more sinister, criminal, even. The first sign of trouble came a few days later. I was on another call when there was a knock on my door. At first, I thought it was a package delivery, but the knocking became insistent. When I opened the door, a police officer was standing there. My heart sank. "Hello," he said, his tone polite but serious. "We received a report about suspicious activity in this apartment. Can we ask a few questions?" Suspicious activity? Me? Working from home? I tried to explain, my voice wavering. I'm just working from home, sir. These are team meetings." He raised an eyebrow, glanced at my laptop still open to Zoom, and asked to step inside for a quick inspection. That's when it hit me. Karen had called the police, reporting me for doing exactly what millions of people were doing during the pandemic, working from home. My ordinary, everyday Zoom calls had been twisted into criminal behavior in her mind. As the officer looked around, I explained my work, my deadlines, my clients. "I do marketing campaigns. I'm not doing anything illegal." He listened politely, scribbling notes, and left, promising the report would be logged at the precinct, but I could tell he thought I was exaggerating. And Karen? I could picture her on the floor below, watching everything unfold like a proud general who had successfully orchestrated a sting operation. For the next few days, tension grew. Karen's presence became palpable. She would stand by her balcony, seemingly staring at my windows, timing my comings and goings, making notes literally. My life began to feel like a reality show, where every move I made was being analyzed. I started noticing small things. She would glare when I hung laundry, whispered to other neighbors, when I walked my dog, and even make comments under her breath, as if the whole building was in on some conspiracy against her. Then the incidents escalated. I came home one evening to find a letter slid under my door. It wasn't polite. It accused me of disturbing the peace and suspicious home activities. There was no signature, just a bold "be careful" in all caps. I was stunned. I had no idea that talking on Zoom, pacing while discussing ideas, or laughing a little too loudly could provoke this level of obsession. My friends thought I was exaggerating when I told them, "Karen's just being nosy," they said. But it wasn't just nosiness anymore. She had weaponized the thin walls of our building to monitor my work, and the police report she filed now hung over me like a dark cloud. I became hyper-aware of everything I did, how I spoke, how I moved, when I laughed. Zoom calls, once an outlet of creativity, became minefields. My productivity suffered, my stress levels skyrocketed, and I even considered wearing noise-canceling headphones while pacing just to avoid drawing her attention. The breaking point came a week later. I was presenting a major campaign proposal to a client on Zoom, slides flashing across the screen, when I noticed a shadow across my window. I ignored it, thinking it was just a passerby. But when the client suddenly asked if they could hear someone talking in the background, I realized Karen was outside, listening to every word. I was mortified. That's when I knew I had to take action, not against her, but to reclaim my space, my life, and my sanity. I started documenting everything: calls, Zoom meetings, times she appeared at the window, interactions with other neighbors. I spoke to the building management, shared emails, and even prepared a statement for the police, proving that my work-from-home routine was normal and entirely legitimate. Slowly, the situation began to de-escalate, though the tension never fully disappeared. Karen still prowled her balcony like a hawk, but now I had evidence, support, and a plan. I refused to let her paranoia dictate my life. Looking back, it's absurd. All of this started because I talked too much during Zoom calls. But what began as ridiculous, neighborly interference became a real-life lesson. Some people project their fears and insecurities onto others, and if unchecked, even ordinary behavior could be turned into a crime in someone else's mind. I still laugh at the absurdity, but I've also learned to set boundaries, document interactions, and most importantly, protect my space both physically and mentally. Sometimes, I see Karen staring at her balcony, and I imagine her shaking her head, thinking, he's up to something again. But I don't worry anymore. I continue my Zoom calls, my animated gestures, my laughter, and somewhere in the background, I imagine my neighbors, my clients, and even the officer who visited me, silently shaking their heads at the absurdity, but knowing that, ultimately, my life and my work are my own.